Let's make albondigas, meatballs in a chili sauce. Come on, let's get started.
Todo queda sabroso.
So before I show you this recipe, there's one key ingredient that I have to get. Come on. Okay, so I have to go out and get a particular brand of chipotle peppers in adobo. And
hello,
Jesus, Jaden, what are you doing in here?
Dad, you're supposed to take me to school.
What? Oh. So the brand that I need is only available at the Walmart at my son's school. That's what caused all the confusion. So here we have La Morena, which is now my favorite brand. This is the chipotle peppers that we're going to use. With that, we're going to do some tomatoes, about 8 altogether, some onions, some guajillo chilies, and some garlic cloves. Basically, we're going to take the tomatoes and the onions, the garlic, and later on, the guajillo chilies, and we're going to toast it in a pan so that it gets charred. Then the vegetables get that smokiness. Then we're going to add this to a blender along with the chipotle and adobo to make our sauce. Okay, so in this cast iron pan, I got it really hot. I'm going to add a little bit of oil just to cover the surface. I don't want it in oil, but I want that char to the pan. We're going to add our onions as well as our tomatoes. Just gonna take those vegetables, put them inside the blender cup. I rinsed out that pan to get the drippings from the bottom of that pan, and I'm just gonna add it to the blender. That was about a cup and a half. Then we're gonna take La Morena. We're gonna take our chipotle peppers, add a whole can. I'm also gonna add some cumin, some salt, some pepper. Then I'm going to place the lid. So here we have our sauce. You could actually keep it in the container, or you could even freeze this by putting them in gallon-sized freezer bags, and you could just pull it out when you want. Okay, so now we're going to start with the meatballs. Here I have a pound of ground beef and a pound of ground pork. I'm gonna put that into a bowl. Kind of break it up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to season it with salt and pepper. Here I have some bread, just some plain white bread that I added some milk to, just to get it nice and soft and pasty. This is going to actually tenderize those meatballs. I'm going to add 1 egg. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of like grated Parmesan, a 1/4 cup of the Chipotle sauce that we did earlier. I have some onions that I simply caramelized. Then I'm going to add some fresh herb. I have some oregano as well as some mint. I'm going to give that a quick chop. That oregano and mint is so fragrant. Okay, then we're gonna add it to our meatballs. Okay, then we're just going to get in there with our hands. If you have some gloves, that'd be great, but if you don't, just make sure your hands are clean and just mix everything together. Okay, so I have my sheet pan here. Just going to spray it just so that the meatballs won't stick. I'm gonna grab ice cream scooper. Place them in your hand, roll them. I don't like to overdo it when I roll it. Just a couple of rolls, that should be enough. Then place it on the sheet tray. Then continue with the rest of the meatballs. All right, now that I have my meatballs all formed, I'm going to place them in the refrigerator for a few minutes just so that they rest and seize up as we prepare the sauce. Now that garlic is nice and fragrant, we're going to add that Chipotle sauce that we made earlier. I'm going to stir that around. Okay, to that I'm going to add some fresh bay leaves, about a teaspoon of cumin, about a half a teaspoon of ground coriander, and I'm going to add some chicken bouillon. So normally I would use fresh chicken stock. You've seen me use boxed chicken stock, which is perfectly okay. But in my cupboard, you will always find chicken bouillon. And do you want to know why? Come closer, a little closer. You see the second ingredient after salt? That is monosodium glutamate, which is known by its acronym MSG. That's why you'll always find this in my pantry. 1 tablespoon. Stir that up. Now I'm going to allow this to come up to heat before we add our meatballs. Okay, now that my sauce is up to temp, I'm going to start adding the meatballs. When it comes to meat, I would always sear whatever meat I was cooking, whether it was meatballs, a steak, pork. I would always sear the meat, brown the meat first, and then add it to the sauce or add the sauce afterwards. Here, I don't want to do that. And the reason why is because when you sear, you're searing the outside and all the juices stay in. In this meatball, I want all the flavor of that meatball to come out of the meatball into the sauce. So that's why I don't sear it. So we have our meatballs in the sauce, and we're going to allow that to gently cook for up to an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how much intensity and depth of flavor you want. And those meatballs are going to be super tender. Okay, see you in about an hour and a half. We're going to serve this with a cumin-scented rice using cumin seeds, then tossing it with the rice, adding chicken stock. Perfect accompaniment. Our meatballs are done. It's been like 1.5 hours. And as you can see, that sauce has intensified. It's no longer liquidy, but it's real thick and luxurious. Add a little bit of salt. And then I'm also going to add some fresh squeezed lime juice. Hit it with some of that oregano mint, and I also added some cilantro. And here we have Albondigas and that rich Chipotle sauce. Oh man.